Hi, this is Martin and Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet.
And you're watching noise11.com.
Always believe it, 'cause you are gold. Like that you're bound to return.
And we welcome you to noise11.com, Gary and Martin Kemp, Spandau Ballet. Welcome to Australia. It's
Hey man, good to be here.
Been a bit of a ride for you guys in the last 18 months or so. I think really this first part started at South by Southwest about a year ago, wasn't it? So it's been ongoing.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's been a couple of trips around the world non-stop. And we're just coming to the kind of like the break in the second part. So it's it's quite exhausting, but it's been a lot of fun.
Because it kind of began around 2009, didn't it? You know, with
well, that was when we got back together, and we did a trip around the world then, but we didn't not quite as much as we're doing now, because we didn't include North America. But we had some time off, and we really got the film together over that period. It took quite a while to make this film work, get all the archive, find and find the right director, etc. And so last year was about the promotion for that, and it was about recording new material. And then now we're on the tour proper, which we started in January on the west coast of America.
Yeah. But the film was the right thing to do for us, because a lot of people out there, a lot of countries out there think that the Spandau career started when True came out, and it was kind of like a great vehicle to be able to fill in the blanks for people, to showing what came before True.
Yeah, and also we have a story that's it's so good it could be fictitious. In the way this sort of coming out of working class background, rise to fame, and then through one of those extravagant decades of the 80s, and then smashing each other up, and then trying to get back together again. So it was it's a story that a lot of people appreciate when they get to a certain age, because I think we've all been through those kind of crises in our lives.
Sure. I guess you two had the advantage over the other three guys because you'd been in front of the cameras over the years.
Well, no, nothing was in. They were not filming anything new for this film. This film's only archive anyway. So it wasn't like we had to do some refilming for this.
But I do think, though, at the beginning of the band, I think the fact that Gary and I had been in entertainment since we were kids, I think that kind of helped. It helped initially with the band, making videos and the promo that came along first up. I think that helps.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, some people, think this all began with True, which, kind of amazes me, because here in Australia, of course, to cut a long story short, the very first song was a very, very big hit here.
Yeah.
Was that actually the very first Spandau Ballet song you wrote as well?
Well, no, because we'd been at school we got together before Martin was the bass player. When we had another bass player, we weren't called Spandau Ballet. We all got together when we were 16 at school, and the oldest song I think in the set was a song called Confused.
No, but was it the first Spandau song that you wrote? It might have been.
I don't know.
So Confused.
Because we wrote it for the synth that we bought.
Yeah, but there was a bunch of
it's interesting.
I don't know what it was. But, certainly there were songs in the set that were older. And which song we're doing? Yeah. We're doing a song in the show at the moment. I was 17, 1977. I wrote which got on the first album, and it's now back in the set.
What song's that?
Confused.
Right. So Confused was pre-Spandau Ballet.
It was.
Yeah.
So Carl Social may have been. Yeah, it may have been.
I think it was.
I can't remember, to be honest.
I'd take a guess and say it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a very interesting time, wasn't it, around that 1980, 1981 period. The world was changing. I won't use the word...
Well, I'd say it was a bit earlier than that. I think 79 was... we started playing in Billy's, and our first gig in Blitz was in 1979. So, in a way, we're a 70s band, and all our influences come from the 70s. But obviously, at the beginning of the 80s, you're looking. Everyone's looking for the next big thing. What's going to make this decade work? Punk had finished, and I think there was a sense of a challenge from all of us that were in the Blitz Club. That we were almost like a bunch of creatives given the brief to design the next decade in its popular art forms.
Yeah, in a way, like the very first Spandau Ballet album. Sort of marked the beginning of the 80s, and when you got through the barricades and Hard Like a Wheel at the end,
Like a Sky,
it was real bookends for this band, wasn't it, of the 80s? I mean, it was the soundtrack of the 80s.
Yeah, it was for a lot of people. I mean, that's partially, I think, the fun of going out now and playing those songs, you know, is because you can see that, you know, a lot of those songs are the theme songs to people's lives. You know, that's how it is. It's really corny, but that's how it is. And you can see in their faces when you play those songs, True and Gold and Only When You Leave, exactly what it means to them. And you know, a lot of people say, do you ever get bored with playing those songs? And you never do, because of that reason.
I don't know whether it was a coincidence or whether there was something psychological about the fact that we made our last record at the end of that decade. And I think it was probably, I mean, certainly I was feeling the pressure of a new generation coming up behind. You know, there was, you know, dance music was beginning, and, you know, you got the sense that maybe us and Duran and Culture Club and the bands in that era were going to struggle a bit coming up in the next few years, you know, and I think, and also there was an opportunity for me and Martin to make a movie, so it just so happened that we had a little get out for that from the band for a while. And of course what we didn't expect at that time is we would go on quite as long as it did, 19 years.
Yeah, because I guess, you know, punk deconstructed the world in the end of the 70s. You guys came along and reconstructed it.
Punk, I loved punk, and I was part of it, and we hung out, we went to see all the bands, and I think there was a great, you know, it was a great blueprint for this kind of anyone can do it idea. But there's a bit of a lie told about punk, as though it came from the streets, and it never did. It came from a middle-class art student who put a boy band together called the Sex Pistols, and never wanted them to take on the world and succeed and go through all the levels of success that we ended up wanting to do. So I think there was in a way, although we were gifted that blueprint of do it yourself, we looked back a bit further, and our influences were really glam rock and the theatre of pop music, you know, and but also, you know, I think that was much more inspirational for us.
But it did open the doors to people like myself that wasn't a great musician but wanted to be in a band, and it made that possible. And I think we owe it a lot for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's the Americans started it in New York with you know, the CBGBs and what was going on there, New York Dolls, and McLaren had been over and he'd seen that, and he managed the New York Dolls, and he came back and he tried to do their own. I mean, but Martin and I remember playing Ramones albums, you know, really loud when we were in 1976.
Three chords. That's
Three
all it
chords
was.
and the Ramones.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite an incredible period. I guess even in Australia we had a band called the Saints that
I remember
was
them, yeah.
around 1974, so they even predated that. It was an incredible output of music that you guys had. Journeys to Glory, Diamond, True, Parade came one year after the next, after the next, after the next. I mean, that just does not exist anymore.
We were lucky, really. I mean, you know, Diamond, apart from chart number one, you know, just struggled a bit after Journeys to Glory. And I think nowadays the band wouldn't have been given a third album chance, you know. But our third album happened to be the biggest album they'll ever make.
But lots of bands have that second album dilemma, don't they? You know,
yeah, but I'm saying nowadays they get dropped, you know. And in those days we were given the chance to make another one, and it was True, you know. And I think by then we didn't need to be fashionable anymore. In that, it wasn't like, oh God, what's the latest club scene in Soho all about? Let's get ourselves involved and make the album about that. Yeah. You know, it was like, well, let's make an album that's really just the sort of songs and the sort of music we would like to make. You know?
When you wrote Gold, when you wrote True, did they happen really fast? Or did you struggle?
I assume they did, because the album came out quite quickly. No, I never struggled. No, they were easier to write than writing something like Chart Number One. You know, I think they were all quite fairly fast, weren't they? Really, the pop. You know, I mean, to be able to, I was just living at home, Mum and Dad. Martin lived sleeping in the room next door, an acoustic guitar, and I would just be writing songs that I felt were more like blue-eyed soul songs, if you like. So.
But that's where the pressure starts, you know, because once you have your first big hit, then you have to keep it up, and then what you realise is that you're living your life to what number you are in the charts, because and that's not a nice way to live.
Yeah, but Parade was still a big album. I mean, were you sort of very chart conscious at that point?
Well, I mean, we were lucky. Through the Barricades was a huge album in the rest of the world. I wasn't outside in Australia. I don't know. But it never came out in Australia, or did and didn't work. But through the Barricades,
Sony record.
Through the Barricades was a huge record in Europe. We just kept on writing good ones, you know. I mean, it was, Only when you leave and I Fly For You, you begin to mature and you get to know the sound. And I think we'd found the sound of the band. I mean, a lot had a lot to do with, the way I was writing songs, the way Steve Norman had discovered the saxophone.
So the size of the venues that we were playing.
Yeah, size of the venues make you write differently. You write through some song like Through the Barricades. You write if you play arenas. You don't write that sort of song if you play in a club.
Yeah. Well, a song like True, where you've got the reference to Marvin Gaye in there. Marvin would have only been dead for a couple of years at that point, I guess.
Was he? No, he wasn't.
He died 1981.
Did he? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
But Marvin was the guy that we were all listening to when we were, just out there first up with trying to pull girls. So that was the soundtrack to that, really.
I mean, as kids in the 70s, we were so eclectic. Not only were we, listening to punk and to Bowie, we were also listening to Chic, and going to clubs and, just following the usual sort of, the dressing. In a way, the Soul Boy was the sort of 70s version of the mod for working class lads, dancing to black music.
So it must have been kind of weird then when I guess Paul Weller was part of that 70s jam punk thing and then he became a soul boy in the 80s.
Well, so he said. He slagged us off for a long time before he made that trip.
Yeah, but by the time he became a soul boy, he was too old to be a soul boy.
Yeah, I didn't believe any of that.
Yeah.
When we when the band broke up and you sort of, Martin particularly, you got really into the acting through the 90s. I think there was even a part in The Bodyguard, wasn't there?
No, Gary was in
Gary did The Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, being on the set doing The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing opportunity and big Hollywood production. Whitney was wonderful, really, really good in good spirits at that time and very, very talkative and engaging with all the crew. And I enjoyed making it. It was 4 months. It was hard. It was quite a big production. Someone actually got killed on the production. It was quite, and then people just move on. It's amazing how Hollywood works. But I think I was in the state of mind where I was looking for something else to do outside of the band at that point. And I think when you're only just 30, you're thinking, how can I prove myself? What have I got that doesn't come under the umbrella Spandau Ballet? And, here was an opportunity and ended up living in LA for 3 years doing work over there.
I think, though, Gary and I were really young when we first started going to a drama club. And that became part of our lives, And a drama club that just opened up across the road from where we lived when we were kids. And that became part of our lives. And in that, I think what happened is when you learn something like acting at such a young age, it becomes part of your personality. And so it's not a skill that you have, acting. It becomes part of you. So, which I think that was really nice to have that.
Yeah,
as an alternative.
Martin and I both bounce around doing different things. I mean, I did a stage play last year and in London, and we still dabbled in that. But being in Spandau Ballet is much more exciting. You're in control of it creatively. Where when you make a film, you're not, unless you're the director, and even then you're not because you've got producers and money people and everything. But I mean, Spandau Ballet is much more exciting for us. And the doing a show on stage is totally engrossing, engaging, and heightened reality. Very difficult, I have to say. I mean, we make life very complicated for ourselves. Our music, but the skill is trying to make it look really easy.
Yeah. How active were you a songwriter in the 20 years that there was no Spandau Ballet?
Not really. I was, but I did a solo album. I wrote some stuff for other people, but it doesn't seem much point unless you're getting a record played. I mean, I did try that thing where you write and you try and pitch songs, and it's rather depressing, to write and then have the song, nothing happen to the song. Yeah,
the song Once More, which is in the set, and you, I guess that was the first of the new songs back in 2009.
It was.
And then we had 3 new songs that pop up on the story.
Yeah. Well, they came together really quickly, actually. They, as soon as someone says, write a song for Spandau Ballet, I find that really easy. And then when we got together in the studio, we had a bunch of songs, and we chose those 3 out of the group that we had, and we were only in the studio for 4 or 5 days. So I think, there's really hope for the band creatively,
Yeah. Well, you know, if this band can get back together, there could be opportunities for a whole lot of other bands over there. Maybe your friend Mr. Weller might go and talk to a few of his old mates and see what happens. Yeah. Well, we've got the Australian tour happening at the moment, and a absolutely amazing set list. I don't know how you managed to put them all in there.
No,
but you managed to put them all in there.
But we kind of do. But it's just so much fun every night. You know, so not just fun getting out there and playing the songs, and but looking around and seeing your mates on stage with you. Yeah. That's an incredible thing.
It's a very fast 2 hours. It goes by really quickly. It might feel daunting when you see the set list, but you know, that's a joy. There's not a song in there that we don't like playing. Yeah. And you know, we visit quite a bit of the old stuff.
Different areas,
different areas of the band, you know, and then you know we do a section that's kind of like about the Blitz Club, which has been really, really fun to do.
Yeah. Will you be documenting part of the tour or one of the shows on the tour? Will there be a live album or a live DVD?
Hopefully, we're talking about it at the moment.
I'd like to do a live record.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, we're playing some great venues in Italy. We're playing the Roman amphitheatres across Italy in a few months' time, so I think it'd be quite nice to film one of those.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to that.
Yeah, we should have filmed Australia, of course, but I mean, the crowds have been amazing so far. You know, we've just done Brisbane and Sydney, and absolutely amazing crowds. So I mean, and they're getting the full-on showdown here. We've not scrimped on anything.
You know, when you first walk on stage and you look at the front rows, and you can see people bristling, wanting to get up out of their seat, and that's what it's like in Australia. So as soon as we walk on, bang, it starts, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, this was a very, very big band in Australia. I'm not surprised that you're getting that reaction at the shows.
You know, but you know, you have this time off, this amount of time off. You know, I know we came back 5 years ago, and you know, you're always flattered and when people want to come. Yeah. But I think they, you know, like as Martin said earlier, they're coming because it's about them. It's not about us, you know. It's coming to see a band that was really deeply part of their lives growing up, and maybe and there's more left in the tank.
But that's exactly what the show's about. We know it's about the audience, and you know, we're doing it for them. That's exactly what it is. That's what makes it is the most incredible thing. Every night you look out, you see 10,000 people extremely happy, which is an amazing thing to do. So
will there be another Spandau Ballet album then?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. You know.
Do you have the songs?
No, not yet. Do you mind?
Well, you got 3.
I have them in me. No, that's. I don't think songs are ever a problem. I think it's finding the time to get 5 blokes together in the same room. That's probably a harder thing. That's what it took 5 years between the last one and this one. You know, getting everyone, because everyone has their own lives. They do things, and I think that's.
But you know, we made a film in that last 5 years. So
I think that's the other thing is trying to find different ways of working. I mean, look, we did the film, not an album, because the album is let's face it, the album is not what it was in the 70s and 80s. It stopped being what it was when the CD was invented. And people have always tried to find different ways of presenting that album. You know, we were just talking about the Foo Fighters. You know, they have films or TV series that go. So I think there's other ways of approaching new product to get you out on the road again.
Yeah. Well, your songs seem to keep on living anyway, if not from you, from other artists. There was Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, there was Lloyd and Little Wayne.
And Black Eyed Peas have done it. There's always something.
Modern Family,
Ed Norton sang it. You know, it's amazing.
It goes on. It's great to have you guys in here during the Australian tour, Spandau Ballet on tour across Australia, and we thank Gary and Martin Kemp for joining us here at noise11.com.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.